I used to hear this all the time. It's like, well, like I want to attract a 10. And the first question that I would ask is, are you a 10?
Yep.
And usually the answer is like, whoa, I never thought of it that way. I'm a 6, but I expect a 10. 10s want to be with other 10s.
Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the Team Building Podcast. I am your host this week, Andy Cuny. With me today is somebody who I'm assuming, or I'm pretty sure you will be able to feel the energy through your headphones. Brandon Oot from Albany, New York. Brandon, how are you doing today, sir?
Doing great, my friend. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. So let me just preface this by saying I am always excited to talk to our guests. But today, I'm really excited because this guest I know a little bit better than most that I get to interview. And I've gotten to know Brandon probably over the last 3 or 4 months, a little bit better, a lot about their business. Full disclosure, Brandon is actually one of our Powered by ERS partners. And so that started back in March, our first wave of people that came out. He came out to visit us out in Omaha. And I'm going to help you guys understand a little bit about what Brandon has done, about what Brandon's doing, and then also a little bit more about where Brandon hopes to be in about the next 12 to 24 months. So first of all, let's let Brandon introduce himself, tell us about a little bit about himself so we can figure out where he's at. Brandon, where are you located, first of all?
So we are I'm the owner of Core Real Estate Team in Albany, New York.
Okay. Albany, New York. What's the population of Albany, New York?
It's a little bit, it's hard. I think in Albany County, it's about just over 100,000 people, but there's a bunch of like neighboring counties like Saratoga, Schenectady, which would bump that a bit higher. But in Albany, it's about 100, just over 100, maybe 120,000.
120,000. Okay. And then how far are you actually away from New York? If you hopped in your car right now,
about 2.5 hours.
About 2.5 hours. Okay. So that gives people an idea of where you're at.
Pretty big hike. We do some business a little bit south of us, about an hour in Hunter, which is like a vacation area where it's actually where I started my career. And we get a lot of pull from the city out there, but we don't really get a lot of city people up in Albany.
Unfortunately. All right, perfect. Okay. Second question is, what's the average price point in Albany for you guys?
It's all different everywhere. I would say right where we do business, where my office is, it's about 280,000.
Oh, okay. About 280,000. Okay. So that's pretty similar to Omaha, what we have right here. I think we're about like 319, right? So you're right in that ballpark. Okay. So first I want to know about the history, and then we'll go into what you're currently doing. So tell me about the history. How long have you been in real estate? What is your real estate look like?
So I started real estate, I think this is my 6th year, and I started just before COVID, and it kind of came out of desperation. I was a bartender, and I was on the phone with my mom, and I was just miserable. I was literally a miserable person. I had a job that I hated. I was dating a girl I hated. I lived with a roommate that I hated. Literally, this is how it went down. I'm on the phone with my mom, and she's like, "Why don't you get into real estate? I think you'd be good at that." And I swear to you, Andy, within 2 days, I don't think it was the next day. I think it was 2 days later. I was working as a bartender, and three brokers came in and handed me their card the same day. And I'm like, this is weird. I called my mom. She's like, it's a sign, you should go do it. So I got licensed literally in the next 2 weeks. I worked from 4 to 11 o'clock as a bartender every day, and then I grinded the course out in about 2 weeks and got licensed. Within 3 weeks of that moment. I picked one of the 3 guys. I started with them. I didn't do super well in my first 10 months. I did about 2 deals, 2 transactions.
Can you hold on for a second? You said something there. You've had 3 brokers come in and you chose one of the guys. What made you choose that one guy over the other 2?
The other 2 just were, I was looking for support and someone to be like, hey, we've got this program, and, you're going to be great, and we'll train you and all this stuff. And, I'm one guy literally, and this is one of the guy that I wanted to go with. And he was a big time agent in Kingston and had a bunch of different offices. I met with him specifically, and he's like, yeah, we'll just you come here and we'll just get you started. And I'm like, but how? Like, can you tell me a little bit about how leads work and like, what's the train? Well, one of my assistants, he'll kind of get you going, and then we'll just go from there. And there was no concrete plan of how to get started. And that really concerned me. So I ended up starting with Coldwell Banker, which was just a little bit bigger brand. They were actually being bought out by a different Coldwell Banker. They're owned by different people. So they were being acquired by a bigger Coldwell Banker. So I just thought that the resources that would be available to me would be a better situation. The nearest office was far away. I didn't do very well in the first 10 months. I was spending a lot of my own money. I didn't really have a lot of guidance and development and training. And, which I'm so great because like how we run our brokerage now, we're super conscientious of those things because I didn't have them when I started. And I just think that if someone's going to take 75 hours now, not 72, and they're going to dedicate that amount of their life to it, you should at least put them in a situation where they have the opportunity to succeed. And I think that was really given to me. And man, I'm telling you, I was this far away from quitting at the end of those 10 months because I went through all my savings and I didn't really have guidance. And I was about this far away from quitting. And this small mom and pop brokerage, his name's Wayne. He was like, hey, he's probably had 4 agents at the time. He's like, don't quit. You spent so much time. Why don't you just transition to us? The brokerage was right across from my house, so I didn't have to travel. And I'm like, all right, I'll give it one more go. And that's where it really started to pick up for me. I did 5.6 million that next 10 months of the year. And then I ended up moving to Albany and did 13.1 as an agent and then 21 million as an agent. And then the next year I opened my brokerage. So that's kind of how we got here.
So if I can hit the bullet points on that, you were bartending, complaining to your mom on the phone. And then 3 years later, you're selling like 21 million and opening up your own brokerage.
I know it sounds crazy, man. And if you would have told me like back then, like, hey, 3 years from now, you're going to make, close to $1 million and you're going to be this big real estate guy and you're going to have a team of 15 people under you and this and that, I wouldn't have believed you. I mean, I just wouldn't, if you would have told me I was making 100 grand 3 years from now, I would have been excited.
Right. Exactly. Yes. Okay. So my favorite thing that you said throughout that whole story, and there were a lot of good things, but my favorite thing is one thing that I think has really helped you succeed is you wanted to create the environment that you couldn't find yourself.
Yeah.
Right. And just knowing you, over the last 3-4 months, I know that that's really important to you.
It is.
And so, and we're going to get into some of that stuff and what type of environment you have created. I was smiling a lot there because it reminds me of my story is I was a bartender. I moved to Omaha, right? I knew I didn't want to jump back into getting into a cubicle and being stuck there. And so I started bartending and jumped into real estate. My first 10 months, I sold 4 houses and I'm like, man, this is not going to work. My wife's like, yo, we're still paying those student loans, right? She goes, I'd like you to use that degree. And I'm like, I'm working on it. Met Jeff and then the rest is history, right? I met somebody who had a plan in place. Right. And that's why it's so important to have that. Huge. So, okay. So now you went through some crazy numbers. Why don't you let everybody know who's listening, give them maybe just a 3 to 5 minute recap or update on what does your brokerage look like now? Yeah. Right? Like how many agents do you have? What are the production numbers, that kind of stuff?
Should I go back where we started a year ago and where we're at now? So
absolutely.
We broke away from our other brokerage, back at the end of March of last year. And honestly, it's probably the worst time you could have opened a brokerage, like looking back at it now, but sometimes timing isn't really up to you and you just got to do what you got to do. So we made that jump. 15 people came with me that were on my team and were with the other brokerage. So it was great. We didn't really have to start from ground up, but it was basically that. It was crazy. So it happened very abruptly with my other broker and we had nowhere to go. We literally, I don't even know if I told you this. We ran the brokerage in the first 3 months out of my house. And literally my admins were at my kitchen table. My manager was at like my bar stool and we were interviewing. I swear that he's actually in the other room right now. Trevor Askew. He was the first agent that wasn't with us that joined. I interviewed him in my guest bedroom.
I love it.
It was just, I mean, it was a startup, a true startup. Yep. And our we did sign a lease, but it took 2 months or 3 months to convert it from what it was to what we needed it to be. And you know how those things are. They're like, a month, and then it ends up being a hell of a lot longer than that. And
everything is 30 to 90 days out, bro. Everything. Yeah, it's 30 to 90 days.
Yeah, it's just that's what it was, and we made the best that we could with it. So we did our first, call it 8 months. We did 67 million, just over 300 units, and then we did This year, we're currently at just over 56 million in almost 200 units.
Okay, so you are
yeah.
you're on pace to eclipse both of your last year numbers by at least 25% already.
I think honestly, I really think that we just had like a really slow start to the year, and we've actually, it's hard to gauge because we've recruited a lot of people. So we started the year maybe with 38 people, and we have 52 now. So we're starting to really, and they're really good agents too,
than you did last year.
Yeah, we've got a couple really good ones on deck right now. So I would think, like if I was a gambling man, I think we'll end up somewhere between 150 and 175, just because we're really, we're on a pretty good trend right now, about 5 to 6 million pended a week, which is putting us where we wanted to be the whole year. But we just, for some reason, we had a couple tough months to start the year that really set us back. But that's the goal. Our goal was 200 for the year. I don't think we're going to hit that unless things really get going, but I do think we'll hit 150.
Perfect. Very cool. Okay. So and as you were saying that, you're, doing the whole startup situation in your house, interviewing people in your bedroom, your admins at your kitchen counter. I just heard, like, I could literally hear the excuses being like ripped away from everybody listening. They're like, oh, right. Like they're coming up with all these excuses and they're like, well, I'm not to the point where I'm actually interviewing people in my house yet, I guess. Right. And so they're just like, and this guy, you're only pending 5 to 6 million a week. That's, you know what I mean? So I love the fact that I just love your attitude, right? There's like, it's not if we can get it done. It's just, how long is this going to take me?
Yeah. We have a value. So we have some core values in the office. And one of them is no excuses, only results. I just don't I'm the kind of person, like, I might actually overtake accountability sometimes where it's like, it's really, dude, it's like, you can't control the sun. You know what I mean? It's like,
right. Yes.
Overdo it probably, but I just believe that, I'd rather like bet on myself and own it so I can do something about it. And even if it was somebody else, it's an employee, I'm the one that hired that employee. So really it's my fault, so
like you're living the book.
We talk about it all the time.
Yeah, we do. You're living the book, extreme ownership, right? And that can be really scary and stressful when you're like, great, everything is my fault. But then it is so liberating and empowering when you're like, oh, everything is my fault, right? But then the next piece, and I think the big hurdle for people like you who are super driven like that and super self-accountable, is you've got to be able to relinquish some of that stuff.
Yeah.
Because you can't do everything. You're not the best person for everything. And you have to figure out, where is my time best spent? And so putting a leadership group around you is really important. Do you feel like, tell me a little bit about when you were creating that. Where did you find the people that you would consider part of your leadership group?
Yeah, so I think we had some of them that were already just by the luck of God, were already with us. And I don't think we really knew what positions they were going to be yet. And they haven't identified that. And we were too young to see that yet. But I knew that we had a lot of the right people, and it just kind of time was going to let them come. And as we started to really get into our second year, that really started to happen. Brandon Castle, which you met all of these people, because we brought them to Omaha. Brandon Castle started coming as a recruiting manager. And then Sean and Bo and Danny became leadership people that were our coaches, our accountability coaches. And then there was this guy that I was after for a really long time, and he ended up joining from Keller. Zach, I was after him for 6 months, and he is like my basically COO of the company now. And really, he's the guy I lean on, that I couldn't do what I'm doing now without him, because it wouldn't even be possible. So like having those pieces in place, and, we talk about it, Andy, all the time. It's just like removing yourself from, all of the boxes. I feel like, when you first open a brokerage, I was in like 50 boxes, man. Like,
you're doing everything.
Instagram, I was doing payroll, I was doing this, I was doing that, I was doing recruiting, I was doing sales for myself, I was doing training. And it's just too much, especially when you start to add scale into it. It's just not possible. And I was also able, in doing all of that, I was able to identify what I was really good at. And I'm really good at, inspiring my team and working with my team. And I'm really good at recruiting. And those are like my two superpowers. So I spend 90% of my week doing both of those things.
I love that. So that's your best ROI activity,
100%.
Right? And here's the thing. If you did not work within all of those boxes, you wouldn't know where your time is best spent, right? So it's learning through the activity, learning through the pain. The other thing is, people are always, how do you find talent? How do you find talent? I don't have it. You know what I mean? I can never find talent around. I can never find somebody who's willing to, I hear this all the time. Nobody's willing to step up. Right. And what I always say to them is I go, you have to push the right buttons, pull the right levers, hold somebody accountable, right? Put the pressure on so that they have the opportunity to step up.
Yeah.
That's the thing is if somebody tells me I just don't have anybody in my world who's willing to step up, I turn around and ask them right away. I say, well, we need to look in the mirror and figure out why nobody in your world, either you're not bringing the right people in or you're not putting them in the right positions to have the ability to step up.
And also, I think too, like a big thing for us and now with social media and all of these platforms available, like I'm a really, really big believer of like, you attract who you are. And like when you're putting out content and you're putting out videos and I think we're pretty good at that. Maybe not as good as I want us to be, but like we do put like 2, 3, 4 pieces of content, usually videos out every single day. There's people like just you being who you are, it attracts that. So like, I think if you want to recruit more talent, then you need to become that. You need to become the change in which you want to attract. Right. And I think that's been, I just keep trying to push it for myself and keep growing myself and becoming a better leader myself. In doing that, I think I'm recruiting people that want to be led, that have the ability to also lead as well. So that's been a really great thing for us.
Well, we've only been talking for like 20 minutes so far, and the reoccurring theme with everything you say, whether you've been planning that or not, is you see something that you want that you didn't have, nobody else is offering. So you go ahead and not only create it for yourself, but then create it for the people who are choosing to follow you. Yeah. Right. Every step of the way, it was, hey, I wasn't getting any guidance, any process, any system, an environment where I could succeed. So I created it. Now I'm trying to create leaders. Well, guess what? I need to become that person first. And so that is one of the number one things. So everybody out there who's like, oh man, I wish I could find talent. We hear this all the time. People are like, when they come to Omaha, man, I wish I could find an Andy or a Logan or a whoever, right? They always want that person. They're like, well, if I had that, I'd be successful. Sure. And I'm like, well, why haven't you created and cultivated that, right? Why haven't you attracted that person? Okay, that's one of the number one things. And it is. And it's like, but then, man, it goes back to the extreme ownership. You're like, oh, when we would stand down there, you go to all these conventions too, these real estate conventions across the country. And people are sitting there like, man, agents don't want to work. They're lazy. Agents, you know what I mean? Don't do this. Agents don't do that. And I'm like, well, who recruited them, training them, and who's holding them accountable?
Yeah. And I think you said this with dating a lot too. You know, I used to hear this all the time. It's like, well, you know, like I want to attract a 10. And the first question that I would ask is, are you a 10? Yep. And usually the answer is like, whoa, I never thought of it that way. I'm a 6, but I expect a 10. 10s want to be with other 10s. And I know we talk about this all the time, like A players in real estate, they want to be around other A players. C players don't want to be with A players because it exposes them. It makes them feel, and also A players don't want to be around C players because they're like, we have nothing in common. Yep. I want to win and you don't. So I just think that, you know, you need to make sure that you're an A player first if you want to attract other A players. Absolutely. And create that accountability with them that's going to make them better. And I think that that's a great framework to start with.
No, I love that. Okay. So the next thing I want to talk about really quick is if I say I'm in Albany or I'm moving to Albany or Schenectady, I just like saying Schenectady. If I'm in New York, and fun fact, my brother lived in Schenectady for like 2 years. Crazy, right? Okay,
it's actually coming along, believe it or not.
Is it?
It's like it's gotten a lot nicer. There's, you know, the casino's really driving it. It'd be a lot different than probably when you last experienced it.
You had me at casino, right? That's all I needed to know. Okay, so if I'm up there and I'm an agent, okay, and I'm like, you know what? I'm looking for a brokerage. I'm just starting out. Maybe I bartend on the side, right? Like whatever it is, or I have another job that's like just wearing me out. Okay. And I'm like, you know, I want to get into real estate where I'm at a brokerage where I feel like, yeah, I'm making my, you know, $50K a year and I want to make more. I wanted to turn this into a career and not just a job. Why do I come across one of your ads? Why do I want to join your core real estate? Like, what is it about that's going to help me allow me to get my business to where I want to get it? Because not everybody wants to get their business to the same level.
Sure.
Right. Everybody's different. So what is it about core real estate? What can I do there? What is your secret sauce?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's different for, like you said, not everybody wants the same thing. And I think we're really working through the value proposition between, going after really high-end agents, because that's something completely different there, to a newer agent. And we work with everybody long as they're the right fit for us. I would say number one, our culture is amazing. I mean, our team meetings, you can see them on Instagram and Facebook. And, we just have a culture of taking care of people and doing things as a team, which is kind of the opposite of what most companies do, that, sit in a cubicle and you're competing against, the person that is working right next to you. We don't operate like that. We operate as one unit, knowing that if all of us kind of bind together, we're going to all get more of what we want. So that's, I think, one of the first cultural differences. And, people are like, even today, I mean, we have like 14 or 15 people in the office all working, making cold calls, following up, using Boomtown. I mean, we have a culture of people coming to the office and doing work. We have a ping pong table, we have a golf simulator, we have a bar, so it's a little bit, it's fun. We have like a lounge. We have, I'm in a podcast room right now. We just built out a podcast room. So I think we offer some amenities too that are just a little bit different and make you want to come to work and make work want to be fun. That's part of it. I think to a new agent, it's very simple. We offer structure, training, leads, which are, I think for a new person, that's what I struggled with, is just lead.
You need that pass. You need opportunities to get better.
Yeah.
I tell new agents all the time, come in and fail forward using the leads we're going to give you, so that when you have the opportunity to close Aunt Sally, you can close Aunt Sally. You know what I mean? And so I love that. Okay. So question, you just mentioned something really quick there, is you stream your team meetings on Instagram, right?
Yeah. We cut it up and we do different, just different things of that. Yeah.
Okay. So if I'm listening and I want to go watch one of those, because either I think it's a freaking awesome idea and I want to know how somebody else who's successful runs their team meetings, where do I go?
You could go to my tag. It's Boot, BOOT 4186 on Instagram.
Okay.
And there's a ton of content there. And then, or you could just go to Core Real Estate Team on Instagram, and the same content would be available there. We kind of splice it up just to get everything into, 2 minutes or whatever there.
Right.
We actually have a back end archive that is only private to the company that we tape everything that we do in, that you can rewatch if you missed it. But the teams, they're really simple. They're not geared towards anything other than recognition and fun. They're like, we do have training meetings, every week where we're delivering value and content on how to make your business better. But the meeting is just simply a celebration of the efforts that were put forth that week, which I think also makes us different.
So I'm not going to show up to this meeting and then hear about the new listing that Susie Smith took?
No, sir.
Oh, thank God. Right? I love it. So
now we have a Slack channel too that Susie Smith would have told you already.
There we go. Well, of course, right? We got to make Susie Smith have. It sounds to me like you have what you're talking about, all this, and you talked about, 10s attract 10s and A players attract A players and C players and all of those kinds of things. It seems to me that when you're talking about culture, like we pride ourselves, right, at Omaha's Elite, KW Elite, of being a culture of accountability. That was the culture that we wanted to create, right? It sounds to me like you're almost creating a culture of success, right? Like everybody who comes in, it's like, that's what it is here. It's like, if you don't have the drive to want to be successful, or even find out about yourself, right? Because you need to find out. How do you know if you want how successful you want to be until you're around other people who are doing it? It's
so true. You want to hear a great stat? So we just in our review.
Only if I can steal the stat. Okay, fair. Okay, go ahead.
So we just had a review, Zach, Danny, and I, which is like our leadership team, and so we found that we actually, out of the 52 agents that we have, 27 of them are actually full time. So, which is an interesting kind of thing. I wish that was a little bit different. I wish we had more of them, but nonetheless, we have 10 people, 11 maybe, but 10 for certain that are going to do around $10 million this year. So I think that's kind of cool that almost 33%, of the full-time agents that are on our team are going to, have the gross, their GCI is going to be $250,000 or higher.
That's awesome.
Some people are going to be closer to 20, but it's really cool that, man, like 1 out of every 3 of our agents is going to put over $200,000 in their pocket. I mean, that's pretty cool.
Impressive. And I love that, because that is one of the biggest things that we hung our hat on. Is everybody said, well, of course you did 800 units last year. You had 30 agents or whatever, right? And I remember telling them, I go, the average per agent unit transaction on our team is 27. Like that is what made me proud. Well, but for our team,
for you it is. I'm saying that's not the industry.
And that's what I'm saying though, is that's what you can really hold your head on. You're like, yeah, we're not just, we do a bunch because we have 50 agents that each do 1 million. You know what I mean? That I want to be, I don't know about you, but I know that I will improve even if I suck. I will improve just by being around other people who are better than me. If you're sitting around and looking and you're like, man, I'm the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. You have to find, I want to go, if I'm 10 million and I'm the number one producer at my company, I need to go find a company that has 30 people higher than me so I can start climbing the ladder again.
I agree 100%.
I told Jeff all the time, I was like, man, our room, you and I are starting to be the smartest guys in the room. We need to change our room. He's like, yes, we do. Right. And it's constant. You have to constantly keep doing that. I want to go into a room where I know they're going to pick me up. I'm not the one who has to carry the weight every time. Yeah, so I love that. And it sounds to me like that's a brokerage. I don't know if I should say this being recorded. I always enjoy our podcast, but there are very few people that I interview that I'm like, if I lived in New York, I'd enjoy coming to work for Brandon. And you are definitely one of those.
You're going to come visit soon. So
I am. I'm out here. We'll check out the casino in Schenectady, right?
You might never leave.
Well, I'll never leave. Oh my God. Yeah.
But hey, to answer your question before, so I think that's kind of like for a newer agent, I think that's, I'm really confident that we could take an agent, like a newer agent and stick them in this environment and I could teach them nothing. We could tech stack them nothing, give them nothing. And just the culture alone they would produce double of what they were, wherever they were. I don't think we've had an agent yet come from another company and not beat their last year's number from that company. We had a guy come last year, Mark, that he was, I think he was at 3.3 million closed for the year. He joined us in August. He closed out another 5.5 since joining the brokerage in the next 3 months.
Oh, see, that's when you know what you're doing is right. And it sounds to me like you're giving stories on both ends, right? So many times we run into it is team leaders, broker owners, they spend so much time creating that floor, right? If you come here, I'll at least get this to be enough money for you to quit your job. Enough, right? Then they're so busy creating that floor, right? That'll just enough to get you to commit, but they don't even work on raising that ceiling. And then people are just stuck, or they leave and they have constant turnover. And you're like, what are we doing? You have created an environment where I can be new. And I can be like, I need to get from 1 million to 5 million because I want this to be a career, not a job. Plus, if I'm already at 5 million, you've created it where, you know what, I can go do 20.
I was just going to say that's what we're in the laboratory right now. And obviously, this because we talk about this with you at great lengths weekly, but that's what we're really going after now is how do we take a 10 million or a $15 million agent to 20 and 30? And we just hired a transaction coordinator yesterday.
Nice.
We are really working hard on not only like our tech, making sure that our tech is where it needs to be, but our support. The biggest thing that I'm out there interviewing agents with different companies, literally weekly, big ones, $10 million plus agents. And the number one thing I'm hearing is we don't have the support. I don't have enough time. I'm a mother of 2 or a father of 2. I can't work harder. The option of me working 20 more hours a week, it's not possible, but I do want to grow my business. Well, the only way they do that is by doing it differently and being supported differently and making sure that they're being really, really diligent with their time. And I think we're really working hard on creating those models, and we're excited about our ability and what we have to offer from not only tech but our support on the back end. That's going to free people up to have more time to make sure that they're able to raise that ceiling. I mean, we talked about it Wednesday, Andy. It brings people are going to hit that ceiling of their talent. And that's just, it could be 10 million for somebody could be 12, could be 17. Everyone's a little bit different based on their talent level, but they are going to hit a ceiling where they like talent's brought them to where it's going to bring them. And that's
they have maxed out their talent. They now need a system and a process and support and leverage to get them past that.
100%.
Yeah, and some will never trust enough because they are the ones where it's like, nope, everything has to be me. That's great, but you will max yourself out. And I love that you're being
the other day too. It's some of these other companies, and I started with one. They think that like they just offer you more money, and that's That's like, hey, we'll just give you more. You can do the same. You make a little bit, but that's not growing your business. That's having a job, not running a business. And
there you go. Oh my God, don't get me started on that, brother.
It's not about money. It's about what can we do so you can leverage yourself and grow.
Yeah.
Grow yourself, grow your company, grow your presence, grow your following. And, those things matter a ton. I don't know about you, but 90% of 15 million, I'm not a numbers guy, but it is not 80% of 25 million.
No, not even close. And not even to mention the amount of time that I got to buy back as well. And the quality of life that comes along with earning and doing that 25 million.
Yeah.
Okay, Brandon, I love it. I appreciate you being on. If I am anywhere in the country, let alone somewhere in New York or close to Albany, and I want to get in touch with you just to chat or mastermind or ask you how you do it, how do I get a hold of you?
Yeah, I mean, you can, I'll just give my cell phone. You can text me or give me a call.
Oh, wait, we rarely have people give out their cell phone.
Why not?
Okay, brother,
I love helping people. It's literally why I do what I do. It's I feel like it's our duty to give back to other agents, other brokers, and make each other better. So, hopefully you pay it forward and the same people will do the same for me. So 315 area code 450-0674. If you're not as invasive as I probably am and you want to email me, you can email me at Brandon, BRANDON @core, CORE teamny.com.
Perfect. All right. I love it. I really appreciate you being on, Brandon. I love your energy.
Thanks for having me, man.
And you know what? I appreciate everybody listening to this episode. Once again, as always, if you want to be able to keep listening to awesome guests like Brandon, hearing their story, figuring out what they're doing to be really successful, go ahead, hop on wherever you guys listen to your podcast, give us a review, 5-star review preferably. If not, I'll just have Brandon give you a call. And then we will go from there. I appreciate everybody listening, and I am looking forward to chatting with you guys next time. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Brandon.
Guys.